Sulak. Love it. Merry Christmas, everybody. Alright, so I had a couple articles I want to talk about today. It's on the same topic. This is going to be a short one, too, because it's, not going to take too long. For one, I saw a Benjamin Boyce video and other people making videos about this. J.K. Rowling and her comments on Twitter that landed her into some fire from certain critics. I think most people would find what she said not to be particularly unreasonable. So we will see an introduction article from the BBC just to get us warmed up, and then we will see what Vox, the voice of reason, has to say. And so, from the BBC, Maya Forstater, woman loses tribunal over transgender tweets. A woman who lost her job after saying that people cannot change their biological sex has lost an employment tribunal. Yeah, but once you hear the word tribunal, you know you're in for a fun time. Maya Forstater, 45, did not have her contract renewed after posting a series of tweets questioning government plans to let people declare their own gender. Because what could go wrong? Seriously, everything's subjective. Most common people believe that, don't they? Oh no, it's only the educated elite that believe that. I don't know. I'm already on it. Ms. Forstater believes trans women holding certificates that recognize their transgender identity cannot describe themselves as women. But that view is, quote, not worthy of respect in a democratic society, a judge said. Ms. Forstater, who had worked as, oh man, I'm off to a bad start. Ms. Forstater, who had worked as a tax expert at the think tank Center for Global Development, was not entitled to ignore the rights of a transgender person and the enormous pain that was caused by misgendering, employment judge James Taylor said. Not that James Taylor, different James Taylor. Ms. Forstater was absolutist in her views, he concluded in a 26-page judgment. It is a core component of her belief that she will refer to a person by the sex she considered appropriate, even if it violates their dignity and or creates an intimidating, hostile, degrading, humiliating, or offensive environment. You can just foist nonsense on people, and if they object to it, for example, putting men with penises and testosterone into female places, but because they have a certificate that says it's okay, that certainly isn't corrupt. Certainly couldn't be corrupted at all. But it's her problem, right? Alright. Miss Forstater had argued, framing the question of transgender inclusion as an argument that male people should be allowed into women's spaces discounts women's rights to privacy and is fundamentally illiberal. It's like forcing Jewish people to eat pork. Author J.K. Rowling is among people who have come out to support Miss Forstater. And I'll read her tweet in this one, and I'll probably read it when we read the other one just to for emphasis. So, J.K. Rowling says, dress how you please, call yourself whatever you like, sleep with any consenting adult who'll have you, live your best life in peace and security, but force women out of their jobs for stating that sex is real? Hashtag I stand with Maya, hashtag this is not a drill. I don't know what the second hashtag refers to. I watched the video about this, somebody else explained it, but I can't remember. But yeah, that doesn't sound like what was attributed to it. Violating people's dignity, creating an intimidating, hostile, degrading, humiliating, or offensive environment. And it's like, well, do your own thing. It's your own business. That doesn't seem to be any of those things. But it seems like who's applying the coercion here? Who's applying the force? And who's using the arm of the state to wrestle us down? To compel us to do things. It's not these people who are saying, hey, women maybe don't want to have, select men with certificates going into their, dressing rooms, bathrooms, locker rooms, stuff like that. That doesn't seem so unreasonable to me. But apparently that is violating their dignity and their identity. So, I don't know. Sounds like a personal problem, but maybe those don't exist in 2019. Miss Forstater, who had raised more than £85,000 through crowdfunding to... She's British. She's not super fat. She's British. She's not £85,000. That's just a lot of money. Through crowdfunding to pay her legal bills, said in response that she was, quote, blown away by the support and interest in her case. Yeah, I think a lot of people are fed up with this nonsense. All I ever wanted on this was for people to be able to talk about the policy questions around sex and gender identity in an normal, open, democratic way. That's too much to expect, because what you are doing is hate speech, madam. That is hate speech. I can't believe people defend this. Like, when you see the consequences where people just get fired for stating their opinions, and it's just like, well, the media told me it's hate speech and it's hateful, so, I'll just take them at their word. When have they ever lied to me? Gender identity is a matter of enormous public interest, and there are a range of different and strongly held views. Some will regard this judgment as preventing people from expressing their honestly held belief that a person born in the male body cannot become a woman without the threat of being dismissed from their job for doing so. Others will see it as much-needed protection for rights of those who wish to identify as the gender they feel themselves to be. So there's something called the normative culture, and they said, we just want to be part of that. We just want to be able to not feel so different or set aside. And it's like, well, one of those things, Dave Chappelle kind of made this point, one of those things that makes you part of the normative culture is that people can take the piss, people can make fun of you, people can, people pal around, people make jokes. That's part of normative culture. Are we going to ban jokes too? Like if you, I don't know. Continuing. Employment tribunal rulings are not binding legal precedents, but they do have weight, and this ruling could deter others who share Maya Forstater's views from bringing such cases in the future. Ms. Forstater's solicitor, Peter Daly of Slater and Gordon, said, the significance of this judgment should not be downplayed. Had our client been successful, she would have established in law protection for people on any side of this debate to express their beliefs without fear of being discriminated against. But the British courts, or I suppose they're not courts, they're tribunals, right? We want these things dictated by tribunals. Well, these tribunals have failed. So here's a very, very progressive take on this from Vox. You can always depend on them for that. J.K. Rowling's transphobia is a product of British culture. Widely cast aspersions right from the starting line. How wonderful. Her gender-critical tweet on Thursday shouldn't be surprising, by Caitlin Burns. There's been speculation for years within the transgender community that best-selling author J.K. Rowling, who wrote the Harry Potter series, held transphobic views. Now a tweet posted on Thursday morning has seemingly confirmed those suspicions. In the tweet, Rowling expressed support for Maya Forstater, a researcher and self-proclaimed gender-critical feminist, whose contract was not renewed after her employer, an international think tank that campaigns against poverty and inequality, discovered her involvement in anti-trans campaigns online. Rowling said, dress however you please, call yourself whatever you like, sleep with any consenting adult who will have you, live your best life in peace and security, but force women out of their jobs for stating that sex is real, hashtag I stand with Maya, hashtag this is not a drill. How aggressive! How completely unacceptable! Oh my goodness, she said Voldemort. Did you know that she said Voldemort? It's like people had not actually read the books, and so they take it into mind. See, this is to invalidate that so that people can go ahead and... A lot of this is like Brave New World, where it's like, you don't get to say no to people, women are supposed to have sex with trans women or men or whatever. It gets confusing because it's all like flipped around, so you can't tell what's what, and I kind of think that's, the point to some degree. To some degree, it's, people having their own experiences, which is, fine. I don't meet people or have conversations with people that want to stop you from doing that. But it seems like this is just a big power play over your identity, which, my opinion is kind of, contrived, but it's outside of my experience, so I don't know. But there's no benefit of the doubt. It's just, oppression and normative culture is, attacking me, and I need to wield state power against other people, because, that's never gone wrong. The tweet drew immediate criticism from trans people and allies. Even the terminology, the allies, against the axis of evil normative culture, which is like 95% of humanity. While trans exclusionary accounts hailed the author as a hero and a defender of women, but this is not the first time Rowling has flirted with transphobia. Her 2015 novel, The Silkworm, God forbid she bandied around ideas, right? This is like out of a dystopian novel. They're acting it out now and pretending that it's righteous. Are you kidding me? Nobody's trying to compel you to do anything. They're just like saying, hey, please don't wield the legislature and all of these bodies and HR departments and shit against us. That's all we're asking you to do. Just behave yourself, and you can do whatever you want. We don't care. Affirm my identity. Ah! Written under a pseudonym, Robert Galbraith featured a scene in which the main character, Cormoran Strike, discovered a trans woman and threatens her with prison time with accompanying threat of rape. In 2017, Rowland was caught liking a tweet that linked a Medium piece filled with vitriol directed at trans women. It sounds like she was writing fiction and she wrote a character and you're holding her to account for a thought crime. Hubris, arrogance, insufferable. A similar incident occurred in March 2018 when Rowling liked a tweet that called trans women men in dresses, which her representatives at the time played off as a middle-aged moment, claiming her finger accidentally hit the like button for the tweet. Yeah, you're basically holding people to account for thought crimes. You should just let people have their opinions and give them the benefit of the doubt and stop trying to police people. Like, my goodness. I don't understand why anybody has to say any of these things. Like, who is defending this? I actually know somebody that they just, whenever you send out the progressive bat signals, they jump on, then they, share the tweets and blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, why don't you just get a real life and real ethics, and then you won't have to participate in this clownish nonsense. Rowling's transphobia, alleged. She was not convicted by a tribunal yet. She has not been convicted by the tribunal. I'm sure the UK will get around to her eventually. Rowling's transphobia has come as a disappointment to many of her fans, despite trans people repeatedly pointing it out. But it shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone familiar with the current state of British mainstream feminism, though an anti-trans strain of UK feminism has always simmered under the surface. It's really come to flourish over the last several years, especially in the wake of proposed reforms to the country's Gender Recognition Act. The rise of trans exclusionary radical feminists in the UK. The Gender Recognition Act, which was signed into law in 2004, defines the legal process for trans people to change their legal sex on their birth certificates, which currently involves an expensive and highly intrusive investigation by an anonymous government board that has a final say over a person's legal sex. Well, why don't we just forgo the whole thing and you just do your thing? I don't know what you're getting at. I don't understand the purpose. The UK government announced an inquiry into a proposed reform that would let trans people make legal declaration that they pledge to live the rest of their lives as their transitioned genders. Yeah, but what if they're aerogender and they change their mind? This legal system is too slow to adapt to my whims, which is the most important thing, my whims. Because, all the structure that allows people to live their normative lives oppresses me, and I'm very unique and very important. More important than all of them. So, you should adapt the legal structure to me and my vicissitudes and my changing and my just attitudes about things. And if you don't, it's oppression. That's the argument. I swear, that's the argument. It's not enough that people are just like, well, why don't you just do your own thing? It's like, no, I want extra legal privileges and protections. I want a certificate that allows me to, basically violate women's privacy because, I have certain kinds of feelings. And there's just a critical mass of us with our feelings, and we're very loud. And it's like, okay, well... the article goes on. I just don't know how much more I have to say about this, but there was a conversation between Benjamin Boyce recently, and who else was he talking with? I liked it. She's been on his show previously, and I gotta find that. But they had a good conversation, and she made the point that, like, you're talking about your lived experience and your feelings, but what you're doing with other people and their lived experience and what is innate to their bodies and their sense, like suppose you're a woman and you had bad experiences with men, and you would just like to have a place to change and not feel threatened, and then the government just starts issuing certificates to people where it's like, oh, the rules don't apply to me. For example, it said in that article it's prohibitively expensive, and they use that as a means of, you have to pay investigators. They say that that's unjust. Well, I don't know. How do you set the standard? People just decide, and then they can go into, like, women's bathrooms. So they have to have some semblance of, like, authority here, and of course that costs money, but then that's another form of oppression, right? This is not her argument. Her argument was like, well, what about my lived experience as a woman? Is that not important? Well, I don't think if it's serving a certain political agenda, it's certainly not important. So we're just not going to listen to you. Because only people get the affordance of lived experience. Everybody else is just, I don't know. It's just nonsense. But that's all I have to say about this topic for today. But thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.